for the most motivational segment in sports television. It's the Bud List. And Wilds isn't here to get the mail, so I had to run in during the break to grab it, and I got the mail. And oddly, it's addressed to me, which is, I'm not sure how they knew that I would be the one reading it today. Oh, there's the letter reading music. So, here we go. Dear Mr. Wright, Ryan and Brian here. We just watched the first hour of First Things First. The mail's fast. And noticed that Kevin, the bad boy Wilds, was missing. I would assume he has taken some much-needed vacation. Just wondering if he has sent any pictures from the road. Best regards, the aforementioned Ryan and Brian. So it's so funny you ask, because Kevin Wilds is on the road. He is, taking a cowboy-themed vacation. There he is, visiting the world's largest pair of cowboy boots. After something like that, you got to stop by the Big Texan Steak Ranch for a good meal, and then find your, lodging. He's going by himself. This was Wilds and Brou went last summer together. So those are pictures.
Where is Wilds' pot belly?
What?
I've got a pot belly, but Wilds doesn't.
I'm not in charge of the pictures. I'm not sure. Brou, the Bud List.
I cry foul. All right, here we go. I need some motivation after that. This one is highly motivational, Nick. All three, no indictments, just motivation. All right, so let's start with Luka Dončić, as you see. Luka, just like I called Patrick Mahomes Jordan-esque, the first to ever do it, now it's stuck to him. I was the first to call you, I believe this, Nick, the first to call you Luka Legend.
That one is true.
Luka Legend, right? In tribute, he's the new age Larry Bird. Yes, he's a new age version of Larry Bird with one difference, at least so far. Larry used to win. All right, Larry. Now, and you can't say, he was with Boston. Well, Boston, they won 29 games a year before Bird got there, and 61 his rookie year with essentially the same team. And then his second year, he won a championship. By year 6, or in his 6th year, completing his 6th year, he had 2 of his 3 championships. All right, and 3 trips to the NBA Finals. Luka, you are now in your 6th year. Got to a conference final, but really not near a championship. So, Luka, I am calling on you. You're the 7th seed right now. You're better than this. Nick said you could win the MVP. I believe it too, but not as a 7th seed. Not when people feel like you're underachieving. All I'm asking, I know you don't have the best roster in the league, but you got to get up to that 5th or 6th seed. By the time the playoffs start, get to the 5th or 6th seed, make a deep run in the playoffs. Even if it ends in the 2nd round, you got to be in the hunt. It's got to be like a tough 6, maybe 7 games, and you get ousted by a team that could win the championship. We could live with that. All right, so Luka, here's the last thing I'll say, Luka. I love your game, but learn how to move without the ball.
Sure.
Learn how to get off the ball, maybe set some screens, talk on defense. You're not going to be a great defender, we get it. But Luka's got to add some things too. So I think you should be working on that too.
So a couple things on Luka before we move on the Bud List. One thing, to be fair to Luka in reference to Larry Bird stuff, you're right about how great Larry was instantly. But Luka in year 6 is not that much older than Larry was in year 2.
Larry
Larry
was like 22, I think, when he entered the
exactly. And so Luka's, we assume, going to play far longer than Larry did. Here's my concern for the Mavs as a whole. We know the way they're built, especially with Luka and Kyrie. They're not going to ever be a great defensive team. Right at the break, they were like 19th in defensive rating. I think they would happily take if they could somehow be right around league average, right around 15. The problem is they're only 11th in offensive rating. The only way this thing is going to work is if the second half of the year, the last third of the year, really, this is a top 5 offense. With those 2 guys, it's got to be.
Kyrie's missed 22 games, right? So if he's healthy, that's a big
It's got to be a great offense, and I think Luka has proven that if the Mavs are locked into, for example, the 6th seed, I don't know if that's going to happen, but say in the final week of the year, I think you would have teams trying to dodge them. I think you would have teams saying we would rather play a lot of the teams we could rather than have to face that guy in a playoff series, because even in the playoff series, he's lost. He's been such a killer. All right.
Yeah, they're not, honestly, they as great as Kyrie is, I think they were better before that trade. I mean, and I think as we've seen now him with 30-something games, I think so too. And so they got some work to do. A lot of people around the league, they compare Luka to James Harden. It's a compliment because Harden's great, but you know what I mean? Like
Except
ball
Luka's
dominant, you're not going to win it. Well, but I mean like the one-man show, that type of offense. All right, at number 2, we're going to go to the NFL. Justin Fields. Justin, I get it. Justin Fields, he's saying Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams? I was Caleb Williams. That's what he's saying. All right, he's saying Caleb, sophomore year, threw for 42 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I threw for 41 touchdowns, 3 interceptions my sophomore year. Caleb had a career passer rating in college, 169. Mine was 179. I was Caleb Williams, so what are we talking about? All right, then he's saying I've had 2 head coaches in my 3 years in Chicago. I've had 2 offensive coordinators in my 3 years in Chicago. And I'm the problem? I get it, Justin. Here's the thing, though. You got to be mature about this. All right, and scrubbing the Bears off your Instagram is not really being mature. Even if I buy, I'm not saying I do, but even if you buy the excuse, Nick, of, I just didn't want them on my timeline, which might be, I get it. You don't want to see all this stuff about you and them cutting you or moving on or whatever, but it's still not a good look. And you should know by now that it's going to be taken the wrong way, even if you meant it differently. So what I'd say, Justin, is look at the bright side. That's what I'm trying to motivate you. If you get traded, then you are going to a team that absolutely wants you and a team that most likely has had a good quarterback since the 1940s when Sid Luckman played, and a team that will build around you. If they trade for you, Justin, they're saying, okay, we're going to build around this guy's strength. So it could be a good situation for him, Nick, if he ends up somewhere. So look at the bright side, Justin. I do believe him.
And I like Justin, but I don't feel like Justin Fields is being done wrong. He's had 3 years, 2.5 as the starter. I know he's missed time. He's never thrown for 2,600 yards. He's never thrown for 20 touchdowns. In his career, he's at 40 touchdowns, 30 picks. You want to bring in but he has 14 rushing touchdowns.
Most of the highlights are rushing.
Yes, but he also has 16 fumbles to go along with the 14 rushing touchdowns. So I'm not writing him off, but I do not think it is the Bears doing him dirty for wanting to draft Caleb Williams. They passed on drafting a quarterback number 1 last year to give you another year. It was another kind of fits and stops year, so I understand it. Go ahead.
Now, you like because you broached, I don't know if it was you that threw it out yesterday, about maybe keeping him. I don't think that could work. He'd have to be a good soldier, I guess. But
I think there's an argument to be made that you draft Caleb, you keep Justin, and you play Justin. that you do tell Caleb. People say you're Patrick Mahomes 2.0. We're going to do what they do with Patrick Mahomes, and tell Justin, hey man, this is the biggest moment of your career. You know what I mean? You can improve your stock and get a big contract from whoever's going to trade for you. But nobody thinks they're going to do that other than me.
That's asking a lot of those guys to be mature at a young age. But anyway, all right, at number 1, the aforementioned Caleb Williams.
There you go.
All right, Caleb, everybody loves you. Everybody loves Caleb. I love you. Nick, there's a big debate on this show. Does Nick think Caleb might be better than Mahomes? No. He says you're Patrick Mahomes 2.0.
Yeah.
I looked it up. 2.0 means a better version. Now, he's going to say something differently, but I don't know. I'm not sure. All right, but here's the thing. Everybody loved Trevor Lawrence. And jury's still out, in all seriousness. But right now, we don't know if he's going to be great. We don't know if he's going to be a superstar. Other guys, number 1, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Jameis Winston. All right, so my point is this, Caleb. Even if you are drafted number 1, which seems likely, and I think that's the smart thing for the Bears to do, you are still going to have to work incredibly hard to live up to your promise. All right, and here's the thing, too. Even though the Bears are not a great organization, and there's obviously been some chatter about you not wanting to go there won't be any excuses, Nick. Like Joe Burrow going to Cincinnati, which was a place people thought he shouldn't go. a cheap franchise, at least at that point. He turned them around immediately. C.J. Stroud goes to Houston, which had been an embarrassment to the league for the last 5 years or so. He turned them around immediately. So now when you go to Chicago, I personally am not expecting you to necessarily be C.J. Stroud right away, but there will be those expectations that he is great right away. So I would say this lastly, Caleb. In the NFL, the mind is just as important as the body at that quarterback position. You got to be just as mentally strong as you are physically strong. The study habits are just as important as how far you can throw the football, how fast your legs can move. I do believe in you, Caleb, but it's going to be a lot of hard work.
So I just want to kind of defend number 1 overall picks for a moment on this before I add someone to the Bud list. We had a stretch where teams just whiffed on it all the time. Tim Couch was the wrong pick. Alex Smith instead of Aaron Rodgers, that was the wrong pick. Jamarcus went number 1. Now, Jamarcus, there was actually no good quarterbacks as we now know in that draft, but still. But since then, almost every time, teams have taken the right quarterback, even if they haven't turned into a star. In 2009, it was Matt Stafford who went number 1. That was the right pick. In 2010, Sam Bradford went number 1. Maybe he wasn't the player you'd hoped he would be. The next quarterback taken was Tebow. 2011 was Cam Newton. And it was either Blaine Gabbert, Jake Locker.
That's right.
2012, Luck. Jameis, 2015, the other guy was Marcus Mariota. It was still the right, if you were going to, of the quarterbacks, he was the best one.
2016, but people thought Jameis.
Of course. No, 2016 was Goff. Next was Wentz. Baker's the wrong one. You had Josh Allen and Lamar. But then 2019, Kyler. The next guy was Daniel Jones, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence. Last year, of course, is the exception. The point I'm making is I understand the draft is something of a crapshoot.
Right.
Over the last 15 years, number 1 pick quarterback has usually been the right quarterback. I did mention Trevor, who no matter what you think of him, he is the right quarterback from that class. I'm going to add quickly Anthony Davis to the Bucks. Not just because you now can play without you're playing without LeBron tonight, should be able to maybe get a win even without him, only 5.5-point dog. But AD is having a sneaky, excellent, healthy year that no one seems to want to give him credit for because the Lakers as a whole are not performing at the level. While there's scrutiny on LeBron all the time, scrutiny on Darvin Ham, Anthony Davis, maybe quietly, final third of the season, do what we've wanted him to do for 3 years, take the baton from LeBron and lead the Lakers down the stretch. I'm not saying I'm predicting it. I'm saying I think it's something interesting to watch for the last half of the season.
And I'm not saying they haven't been doing this, but everybody in that organization, Darvin, LeBron, the other teammates, they should be pushing him. Rich Paul, his agent, they should be pushing him
this is your
to
moment.
do this. You're right. And I know they've talked to him about it. They said it in subtle ways, but like say it bluntly. Like, dude, you need to take over so LeBron doesn't have to kill himself over the next 30 games.
Say to Anthony Davis what Giannis is saying to Dame. It's your team, buddy. It's all your team. Does Milwaukee belong to Dame now? That next. Oh, I can't believe you guys didn't invite me. The big Texan looks great. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.